Reddit. After all these years, what are you still salty about? This trivia quiz I was a part of, at a nearby social club. 8-year-old me was the kid in my team, and our team was tied with another one for the top prize. The quizmaster said, "Now you folks need to sit down quietly. Just raise your hands if you know the answer to this tiebreaker question. Don't just shout it out." He asked the question. I knew the answer. I raised my hand. Someone in the other team shouted out the answer instead. They got the points and won. No one even stopped to look at me. Screw you, idiotic quizmaster. I was at a golf tournament in high school and had just bought some expensive Pro V1 balls for the first time ever. I was practicing on the putting green with 3 of them when I see one kid pick up my ball. I approach him and say, "That's my ball," and he's like, "No, it's mine." There was no convincing this kid that it was mine, so I just angrily let him have it. We ended up playing in the same group that day, and when he hit it in the rough, easily findable with a little effort, I made sure to stomp it deep down into the ground so he couldn't see. Then when he had to re-tee and take the penalty stroke, I walked back to that spot and picked up the ball. I'm still salty at that kid to this day, and I don't know why. Good on you for your quick thinking, though. 7 years ago, I interviewed with a company. I had 4 phone interviews and 2 in-person interviews, including a panel interview to present the projects they assigned to me during the interview process. Suckers ended up ghosting me. When I moved and had to leave the high school I was at, I found out one of my teachers thought I was a smoker, which is why they were always crappy to me. No, my clothes just smell like crap because my parents and brother both chain smoke and there was nothing I could do about it at the time. I mean, even if you did smoke, that's no reason to be crappy to a student. WTF. Roommate couldn't make rent for 2 months, so I covered him. He only paid me back for about half of 1 month, leaving roughly a $700 debt. At this point, I ask for my money on about a weekly basis, and acts like I'm the bad guy and he's the victim. Find out how often he shops for clothes and fast food. Find out he dropped out of college and didn't tell us weeks prior. Booted him, got a portion of my money, and claimed his deposits to cover the rest. He posts to Facebook a few days later about his jerk roommates kicking him out. Frick that guy. Frick him and people that borrow money with no intention of paying it back. Once my 3rd grade teacher was asking us about state abbreviations. She got to Florida and I raised my hand and said FL. She told me I was wrong and that it was FA, and at the time I thought teachers were infallible, so I took her word for it. Fast forward to 6th grade geography. State abbreviations comes up, and I write FA on a quiz, which obviously turned out to be wrong. I was so mad at my 3rd grade teacher for misleading me, and to be honest it's something I think about more often than I should. My geography teacher literally told our class that slaves were taken from the country Niger in Africa and that's how the racial slur originated, a corruption of the country's name. Like, if you don't know something, just don't speak to it. It's not hard. We used to play Candy Island all the time at the babysitter's. One time I drew the Snow Queen and the babysitter said it's too early for that card, and made me put it back in the deck and draw again. Her daughter drew the Snow Queen a few turns later and the babysitter lit up like oh Snow Queen and moved her piece. I was 4, but will never forget. Oh, that is some real horse crap. I'd be angry too. I took an amazing job opportunity that increased my salary by $40k a year. It was an at-will contract. 30 days after I took the job, I was called into HR, told they were letting me go, and offered no explanation because they weren't required to. I have no idea what I did or didn't do, was not given any specifics, and still get mad just thinking about it. I got another job about 3 months later for around the same salary in a lower cost of living area. It all worked out in the end, but I am still freaking salty about getting fired with no explanation. It probably had nothing to do with you at all. Someone, somewhere, crunched some numbers and the company couldn't afford you, so off you go. I think this has happened to everyone I've known that does contract work. The year is 1998. 8th grade me is at the Wizard World Comic Con in Chicago. My dad drove me the 8 hours there for the weekend. I was ecstatic. Now at this time I was a huge Kevin Smith fan. I had the Clark's comics that I wanted him to sign since he was going to be at the show. Now why did my parents let me watch Clark's and Mallrats in 8th grade? No clue. Anyway, I get in line on Saturday. It's a 4-hour wait. I'm like 10th in line by this point. I can see him. I'm absolutely giddy. Then the signing gets cut off. He's been signing for hours and has to stop. I'm devastated. I've spent my whole day waiting for this. The organizers gave out stickers to people in line saying we'd get to go to the front of the line on Sunday. Sunday comes along and the line is as bad as the day before. I go up, show my sticker, and then they say they decided not to honor them. I'd have to wait at the end of the line. I was heartbroken. I had waited months for this. My dad and I dejectedly walked around the floor and headed back to our hotel room hours later. We walk behind the convention center and there I see him. It's Kevin Smith. He's leaning against a wall smoking. I didn't want to bother him in his alone time, but I blurted out, "Oh my god, you're Kevin Smith." He says, "You're goddamn right I am," and goes back to his cigarette, so at least I had that. I'm still salty about not getting my stuff signed though. It's only been 20 years. I'll get over it eventually. What's Kevin Smith's username? Dude is pretty chill. I bet he'd sign them now if we could contact him. I entered a competition where you had to be the first to type the lyrics to Auld Lang Syne. I did it first with seconds to spare and was disqualified for not using the correct lyrics. They apparently wanted the Americanized lyrics. I'm Scottish. The song is Scottish. I will never not be angry when I think about it. Reminds me of an incident at Knowledge Bowl when I was in high school. The answer we gave was Don Quixote de la Mancha. They said the right answer was Don Quixote or the Man of Mancha. Our answer was the Spanish title of the book. The answer key's title was the English title. It's a book originally written in Spanish. Dumb bastards. When I was 7 years old, my cousin Aaron tricked me into giving him my beautiful holographic Alakazam card and gave me some lame Matt but Gyarados card instead. He refused to give it back to me too. I thought I'd forgotten about it until probably 15 years later when Pokemon Go was a thing. He posted some pretentious edgy Facebook status along the lines of, "I think I'm the only person who doesn't care about Pokemon Go. Yup, Aaron, you're the only one." And now I'm mad again. A few years ago I ordered the shrimp and chicken gumbo at Cheesecake Factory. It wasn't until a few minutes into my entree that I noticed they forgot to add the shrimp. Well, when we told our waitress, she started to accuse me of having eaten all the shrimp and was being very abrasive. Didn't replace the order. Didn't bring out any shrimp. A few minutes go by and we hear someone from a nearby table complaining to the same waitress and demanding their gumbo be remade because they asked for no shrimp. Pretty obvious the waitress got our orders mixed up, but nope. The only logical explanation was that I picked out and ate all shrimp and was only complaining to get my meal calmed. I still can't go back. First grade, there was a test and one of the questions was how long does it take to fall asleep? One of the answers was 15 minutes and one was 1 hour. I selected an hour, and I got it wrong. I thought it was so stupid. Oh, yeah, I'm so happy for you. And all the people who don't spend an hour staring at the ceiling before passing out. Golf clap. When I was a senior in high school, I wanted to be a National Honor Society officer. I was also in the marching band. The lady who in charge of NHS was also the librarian. And I spent my 5th period every day working in the library. Because I was already in NHS. She had me helping her doing a bunch of the stuff that an officer should have been doing. Organizing records, keeping track of everyone's service hours, etc. When it came time to choose officers for the following year, I thought, hey, I'm a shoo-in, right? I've literally already been doing the job. Nope. She decided not to let me be an officer because she didn't think someone in the band could have the time to really perform the duties, even though I'd been doing it for 6 months. Turned out she had some vendetta against the band because she thought we got too much special treatment. Frick her. For my high school, even if you had the grades, you had to be invited by a teacher to join. I never got invited because my older sister was a fricking nightmare. During 5th grade kickball I was wrongfully called out because this shithead kid was blocking the base. We work for the same company now, different departments. I can't help but give him the side eye when I see him in the hallway. I'm 40. Just call him out for it. You might get a stern talking to, but just do it. In elementary school we had a colored card system for discipline. You wanted to stay on the green card. If you got yellow it means you were talking or misbehaving, and if you got a red card it means you were really bad and they would call your parents. Well, I pretty much frequented the yellow card life, always talking. So I was on yellow this particular day and asked to go to the bathroom. While I'm away, I guess the teacher had lost it and flipped everyone's card 1 because the whole class was being disruptive. I come back from the bathroom and I have a red card. I was livid. They call my parents and everything. My mom still talks about how mad I was, and it happened in first grade like 20 years ago. During dinner time as a child, around 6-9ish, my 3 siblings and I would have to finish our plates then ask our ma'am for permission to leave the table, presumably to go do some dumb 6-year-old stuff. One time we had pasta and tuna, my favorite, so I wolfed it down in record time, strolled into the living room with my head held high and my chest puffed out, to inform my mother that it was time for me to be excused to go play Cool Spot on the Sega Mega Drive. As she followed me back into the dining room, my plate was miraculously full of pasta and my older brother's was completely spotless. And despite my pleading for her to see reason, my brother got to go upstairs and claim the Mega Drive for himself, and I had to sit through another helping of inedible pasta, since he had diabolically covered it in enough salt to dry up my tears. I later found out that he had paid off my younger brother and sister to back him up with the promise of listening to his new busted CD. To this day I feel as though I harbor resentment towards him for his betrayal. Since he had diabolically covered it in enough salt to dry up my tears. This is the point he went from being selfish to being malicious. I demand the death penalty. I once got a 2-hour after school detention because someone in my class with the same first name as me didn't do their maths homework. I explained that it wasn't me. I showed her my completed homework that she had marked and returned to me less than 45 minutes earlier. The C just gave me an extra detention for arguing. In reception. First grade for non-UK based people. We were in a circle and the teacher, Mrs. Brown, asked us to go around the circle and for everyone to name a fruit. When it got to me I said Sharon fruit, which is also called a persimmon. Mrs. Brown told me not to make up names if I didn't have one, and everyone laughed at me even though it is 100% a real fruit. That was probably 20 years ago and I still get annoyed about it now. Similar thing happened to me in school. We had to name something from space. Everyone else went with stars, planets, etc. I said quasar and the teacher reckoned I made it up. At work my boss convinced me to take on a project which meant I did my regular job just like everyone on our team, and then also worked extra hard on the new project. I only agreed to it because boss man promised me a promotion to the job I wanted. This went on for a few months. Halfway through, rumors about boss man fricking his secretary really started spreading. At one point in a closed doors meeting, I told him I had his back, didn't pay attention to the gossip and shut it down whenever I heard it. Months of hard work later, the project is done. I killed it. The whole thing was my idea. Anyone who has worked in corporate American can probably guess what happened next. Boss man took all credit for my project and promoted his secretary to the job he promised me. Turns out, he really was fricking her. I was so mad I started shopping my resume immediately and had put in my 2 weeks by the end of the month. Boss man avoided me those 2 weeks and someone asked me what would you say to him. I said can't wait for your wife to discover your affair and kick you out. Well, turns out that's what happened. Every time I see his wife driving his brand new truck around town, which she got in the divorce, I chuckle to myself. I was in a game show play thing when I was in elementary school. It was probably 1st second grade. I don't remember what the game show was called, but basically one of us would get asked a question and provide an answer. The panel of 3 other kids would then have to guess if we were correct or wrong. I was asked a question, which I also don't remember, but I remember that I answered quite confidently President Garfield. Everyone started laughing thinking that I was referring to the grumpy cat. So they all said I was incorrect and the host gave them all credit. The correct answer was President James A. Garfield, which is who I was referring to. Still salty. Will probably still be salty for the rest of my life. When I graduated high school, my grandma's health was starting to go downhill. She was basically in a wheelchair 24/7 and was just overall not doing well. Now, my grandma and I were super close. So, I went through the special arrangements of getting tickets for her sit at the bottom part of the arena I was graduating at so she wouldn't have to take stairs and such. Come graduation day, only my mom and my 2 aunts came. We didn't go to dinner, like everyone else. And overall, it was not as exciting as the youngest grandchild graduating. My sister didn't even go, but she watched the live stream so I can give her credit there. 2 weeks later, when my dong of a cousin graduated, everyone went. 2 aunts from out of state, my 2 local aunts, grandma got to go, etc. They went out to dinner, etc. It's been 4 years, and I am still P. I will never not be salty about this. I had perfect attendance in 9th grade, until one day in the final month of class I was marked absent. I got home and my mom yelled at me for skipping, but I was so confused because I hadn't skipped any classes. I had 1 absence that year. To be fair, perfect attendance is a stupid but award that should not be given out. It encourages people to come to school and work sick and give their illness to everyone else. In elementary school I drew a picture of a dolphin with his hole spitting water out of it. My teacher was completely sure that they didn't had any hole, and shamed me in front of the class. I saw a lot of National Geographic documentaries and knew that it was a mammal and needed to breathe. To this day I'm angry about it. But that's a thing that shows up like 50% of dolphin imagery. It isn't like you drew a picture of something obscure. It's a dolphin. There's pictures of dolphins everywhere. That's an extra level of dumb. I used to work for a pretty evil tech company in tech support. I was miserable only because I couldn't seem to get promoted. I got an offer at a place only 10 minutes from my house. Same pay, free parking, and happiness. I put my 2 weeks notice in at my current job, and they were suddenly falling all over themselves to give me the promotion I had so wanted, specializing in web tracking software, which I was really good at. I agreed to stay on if they would promote me to that position. I was young and naive, of course. They fricked me. I declined the other job offer, and then they denied me the promotion after I jumped through a bunch of hoops to qualify for it. I rage walked out of work that day. I rage walked 9.85 miles. I was furious. People should rarely, if ever, accept a counteroffer from the place they put their 2 weeks in. It rarely ends up in their favor in the long run and they end up quitting 6 months later. I was 14 and reading my favorite trilogy. It's sold as a trilogy. Guys, I know it's an epic in 6 volumes, The Lord of the Rings. My dad had bought me the 3-in-1 omnibus book for me from his online book club and I absolutely love this book. So, I'm this 14-year-old red-headed girl lugging this huge book all day at school to read in my spare time and decide to leave it at my lunch table as I normally do. I leave my books and things to get in line to buy my lunch and come back to someone having smashed french fries into the middle of my precious Lotta book. I was devastated. Absolutely devastated. I asked around the people nearby if anyone had seen who did this heinous act of violence against my beautiful book, but no one owned up to it. I silently cried pretty much the whole lunch hour while I was eating. I'm still sad and angry about that day even though my dad was good enough to buy me a replacement. But frick that person who ruined my book. Some people have no respect. I have a mom friend. Our kids don't play together anymore because I am convinced her son is a budding psycho. He would come over to play with our kids and purposely break toys. He took all our kids' Lego figures and pulled the heads, bottoms, hats off and threw them around our basement. We are pretty sure he took a bunch home, as we can't find about 10 of them. We went to a water park with each other and their son vanished. We were all yelling and running everywhere looking for him. We were in the middle of making the place go into lockdown when he popped out from hiding. He was hiding the whole time watching his parents freak out. The breaking point for me was this. We used to walk our kids to the library together. I pushed my youngest in a stroller, as the hills in our neighborhood are too much for her little legs. One day her son asks if he can push my kid. I tell him sure, but be careful. He takes off with the stroller, running full speed up a hill. We are yelling for him to stop, and he's laughing, not slowing at all. He reaches the top of the hill, stops running, and shoves my stroller with toddler inside it down the hilly road. Thank God the stroller veered left and hit the curb and didn't speed down the hill through the busy intersection. I was done after that. The other mom thinks I'm super uptight and that her kid is an angel. Ugh. You need to save this story for the inevitable day a 60 Minutes reporter asks you to reflect on your experiences with this homicidal maniac as a child. My 8th grade math teacher graded our homework, which we went over together in class. I completely fricked up a concept we just learned and as a result got every homework question wrong. I told my teacher this and she said something to the effect of too bad. You should have done it correctly. Take the 0. About a month later, we started another new concept and I made sure every question was answered correctly. Upon grading the homework, a classmate of mine said something to the effect of Ms. last name. I got every question wrong because I messed up the concept. The math teacher then said don't worry about it. I won't grade today's homework. This was the first and only time she didn't grade our homework. I hope she rots in heck. Just reading these makes me angry. When I was in middle school, I played the flute and had a mullet. My flute teacher was one of those amazing teachers who stood up for me when I was bullied. I had a teacher and a bully who wolf hit me, call me names etc. and really got me to look up to her as a person. I was also very good at the flute. Second chair to a girl who had been playing for years. Final concert comes around. This solo would have made my freaking life. 20 measures. All to myself. Front row. I practiced every day as soon as I got the music. Freaking killed the audition and the girl hadn't practiced at all. But I lost it to her. I'm a level-headed guy. Maybe I played off tempo or skipped a measure or something. But as I was runner-up, I had to practice the part just in case the girl was absent. But as I was practicing in the soundproof room, I noticed I could hear my teacher and a bunch of girls talking. First chair girl, why didn't he get the solo? He is doing really good. Teacher, I can't let some funny kid with a mullet be the only person people look at. It's a good song. I don't want him to ruin it. I dropped flute after that. It's one thing to be a guy who overcame the bullying for being a male flute player. It's another thing to have your role model undermine a passion. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.